And you're the Vice President of EJUS in
That's right.
France. And that's a consumer-led organisation?
It's entirely independent of any commercial interest.
Yeah.
So we represent the vapors of French-speaking Europe, basically.
So we've heard some comments from different speakers about the role of scientists, the role of science in this. We've heard about the role of the trade, the industry in this. What do you think is the main role and perhaps some of the issues facing consumer organisations?
Well, I don't know if we have a main role or if we're not the main role. After all, without the consumers, there's no industry. Without the consumers, the scientists wouldn't be very interested. So, yes, our role here is absolutely vital, so as to be able to offer information on consumer behaviour, expectations, our worries and our hopes for the future. So I think it's fairly important. We're very concerned about what's happening at the legislative level in Europe, what's happening in terms of product standards. We in France we're the first to have come up with product standards that I think would be considered reasonable. But there are other influences at play, and we're concerned that they would lead to the kind of product most associated with complete tobacco cessation disappearing. And that's a particular concern, I think, for all the vapor advocates. And the type of product, if I may, I'm talking of, are these kind of laser swords. You've seen them in Star Trek or similar movies.
Yes, Doctor Who.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But they actually double, you see, as personal vaporizers.
Yeah.
And most of their users don't smoke anymore. By the time you've managed to handle these things, you give up on tobacco.
Yeah.
Well, on the other hand, we're very worried that the kind of product that I seem to have lost it, the kind that looks like a classic cigarette. Now this one was actually coloured, you know, what we call cigarettes. We'll be the only ones remaining once the legislation that's being put forward has banned these things.
Yes.
And these are more associated with people who continue to smoke. So that's a big issue for us.
Yeah.
And we want our concerns to be understood. I think they fully have been by most of the body of scientists and researchers here. But we recognise that the simpler products are great to transit to the more evolved ones.
Yes.
But they're not so great if there are no product left to transit to.
Yes, yes. So, what do you think consumer organisations in different countries with different legislative backgrounds, different cultures, what do you think those organisations can do to actually enhance each other's work?
Firstly, as you say, we have different legislative and even cultural environments. So ever since the Tobacco Products Directive was passed through the European Parliament, we've been concentrating heavily on our territories, work bottom up. And bottom up means writing with our own words, and I say our, I mean individual vapors, to people of influence, but also meeting them face to face. And that has to be done in-house, in our various countries. And it's absolutely critical that vapors meet their MPs, their deputies, their senators, the local mayor. In countries like France, the mayor has a lot of influence. Meet them face to face and present them with their personal stories. Yes. In addition to presenting them with their personal stories, associations like ours, like EJUS, help people also have other information. So if they're talking to an MP who says, well, I hear your personal story, but you know, you're smoking nicotine and that's terrible. To have a simple fact sheet that says, well, we're not actually smoking and nicotine isn't really as toxic as people such as the European Commission say. So have a simple fact sheet that they're able to provide in addition to their personal story. And all that is within our territories. We can exchange with other countries what we're doing, and they may have different approaches. So that's national based. But we're now coming back to an international level. at the European level, we're talking of product standards. So we've worked, at least in France and in the UK, we've worked on product standards that are approved by our local standards institutes, which is AFNOR in France or British Standards Institute in Britain. Now we're meeting at the European level. So that's the Committee for European Normalisation. And there, once again, we'll be talking about standards for the products across Europe. There we start having to talk to each other. Yes. We need to make sure that some vapors are at the top level of that process, which is called the CEN Technical Committee for Electronic Cigarettes, and that we have vapors involved with the working groups and vapors back in their countries checking the output. And it's extremely important. If I give an example, the tobacco industry, which has a very understandable interest in this process, they also have the simple products, and virtually only the simple products, the ones I just showed you that look like classic cigarettes. And they test these products in converted smoking machines. In fact, they're hardly at all converted. They normally test classic cigarettes by placing them in the machines horizontally. So they replace the classic cigarette and bung in one of these cigalikes horizontally and test them. So a cigalike will pass, but these weapons, smaller and more attractive ones are available. These weapons, if you test them like that, well, they burn. No one ever vapes like this. So it's important that, as an example, we ensure that at European level they don't specify these converted smoking machines which would ban these more advanced products. So you can see all these issues interrelate. But now we're at the level where we need to cooperate.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure, thank you.